Welcome back to College 101 here on the College Guide. Last time we talked about the different kinds of loan programs through FAFSA, and today we're going to be talking about how much you should make after college. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know where you're from, where you want to live, what major you're going to choose, or where you're going to work. So I'm not going to tell you how much you could make or how much you will make. I'm just going to tell you how much you should make after college. What I mean by that is I want to make sure you have a good idea of what a full budget and real-world expenses might look like after college, so that when you're looking at different college majors and seeing what their average expected salary is, you have a good frame of reference for whether you're going to be closer to scraping by or how much wiggle room you're going to have in the budget. Now, I'm not saying that choosing a college major should be all about the financials or that you should just chase the money. But I do think it's important that especially if you're going to go to college and especially if you're going to take out loans and spend 4 or 5 or 6 years of your life on this, you should know that you're going to be able to come out of it with a job that's going to pay you enough to live on. Like I said, the whole world can't just be computer programmers or engineers or doctors or lawyers or these other high-profile professions that people push all the time. It takes all types, and everyone contributes to society differently. But again, I just want to make sure that you have the right expectations. As long as the expectations are set properly, you're not going to be disappointed with where you end up after college. This budget is going to be pretty bare bones, but I'm also going to try and be conservative with the numbers. If any of these numbers seem just totally off to you, please let me know, and you can definitely adjust it yourself. I'm going to talk about where the flexibility in this is and how much a change in a monthly expense will affect the annual salary that's required. So let's go ahead and hop into the budget. The first thing I want to talk about that will be your largest expense out of college and probably for your entire life is going to be housing. That's rent and utilities, or in the future it might be a house payment with the utilities, or things like that. And because of this, we're actually going to build 2 separate budgets. The only difference is in one budget, you're going to be living with a roommate or several roommates, and so your rent will be a little bit cheaper. The other one is assuming that you get your own 1-bedroom apartment somewhere. Again, the numbers I'm going to use are going to try to be fairly middle of the road. So if you live in a place that you know is more expensive, like New York City or Southern California, then adjust these numbers up. If you live somewhere that's really, really cheap, like rural Wyoming, for example, then you can adjust some of these numbers down. The cool thing about how the market works is that you can have the same job and even work for the same company, but you'll get paid more if you live in a place like California or New York, and paid less if you live in a place like rural Wyoming. This makes it so hypothetically, you should be at about the same place everywhere. It doesn't always translate exactly, but it does make it easier to think about some of these things. So back to that first line item, housing. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in the US was $1,100. If we add on $200 for electric, water, sewer, trash, internet, and all the other sort of utilities, that would bring the total cost up to $1,300. If you were to split that between 2 people, so a 2-bedroom where you share a bathroom and kitchen, then your cost would be $650 a month. On the other hand, the average cost for a 1-bedroom apartment is $950. We're going to say that that's going to be $1,100 a month for rent and utilities if you were to go live on your own. If you annualize these numbers, that $650 turns into $7,500 per year, whereas the $1,100 turns into $13,200 per year for housing expenses. The next line item and the next essential for living is food, right? Now, this is another place where people can spend as much or as little as they want. In college, I know a lot of us have spent very little money on food. We're eating rice and beans or other really cheap staples like that. You're buying cheaper versions of foods you like to eat, a lot of off-brand stuff, buying in bulk, buying frozen foods, things like that to save on money. With this number I'm going to throw out there, I'm going to assume that once you're out of college and you're working a full-time job, you're going to move away from a few of those habits to treat yourself a little bit better. So the number I'm going to use that still might seem a little bit high is $250 per month for food for you. Annualized, that comes out to $3,000, and in my opinion, this should cover pretty much anybody who's not going out and having a steak dinner every single night. The next line item I want to talk about is your car, gas, insurance, that whole kind of realm, and we could even just call it transportation. So I budgeted $325 for this per month. And again, that may sound really high. And I'm not saying that you're going out there to get a $325 car payment, because that would be a decently nice car, probably a brand new car. Now I know a lot of you may keep driving the old car from college. I'm still driving my old college car and it's working great. But eventually you might have to get a new car, or repairs are going to start becoming more frequent and more expensive. And so that's part of the budget. As well, an expense that a lot of people look over is the cost of insuring your car. Even if you have a 14-year-old car like I do, and it's got 200,000 miles on it, and you have the cheapest insurance that basically says if I get in a wreck, the only thing you got to pay for is if the other person gets hurt, it's still going to be probably in the neighborhood of 40, 50, 60, 70 bucks a month, even if you have a perfectly clean driving record. So that's an added expense. And then also your gas. While you're a student, you might be walking, riding a bike, riding a bus, or things like that to get places. And so your transportation costs are pretty low, or they're rolled into your tuition fees is another way to look at it. So depending on your commute, whether it's 15 minutes or 50 minutes, that can change a lot how much gas you buy. And that can be a pretty significant expense. So again, this $325 per month is a broad estimate that will hopefully catch everything. So again, if it seems high, good for you, that's more wiggle room for you in your budget. Annualized, it comes out to $3,900 a year. Now, for all of you who are living in cities and saying, well, I don't have to worry about this cost at all, that's somewhat true. If you plan on living in a big city and you're not going to have a car, or you're rarely going to drive, you still might have to pay for parking at your apartment. There's also other costs, like you're going to have a rail pass or a bus pass probably. If you don't have a car or you rarely use a car, you're more likely to pay for taxis and Ubers, which can really rack up really fast. And ultimately, your rent in a big city tends to be higher. And so that $650 or $1,100 a month, you might add an extra $100 or $200 on top of that. And so it comes back to bite you that way. So this cost, in my mind, is pretty even across different living situations. The next line item that I'm going to talk about is health and hygiene. This one I lined out $150. And again, right off the bat, that might seem really, really high for a monthly expense for health and hygiene. The first reason I put it so high is that once you're working a job, there's a chance that you may have to pay towards your insurance premiums out of your paycheck. Some employers cover all those costs for you, and that's a really great perk, actually. But in most situations, you're going to be paying at least some money out of each paycheck for your health insurance. As just a single person, it can still be relatively low because you're only insuring one person. And if you're young and healthy, you can go for a plan that's relatively cheap because you aren't expecting to need a lot of medical care. However, that is a monthly expense that while you're a student, maybe you're still on your parents' insurance, maybe you're on the student health plan, which tries to be cheap but has limited options. There are also things like, if you're like me, once you graduated, you finally started going to the doctor and listening to them more, and so you might be buying a few more things like supplements or vitamins that you probably could have bought while you were in college, but they weren't totally necessary. And so you're doing things like that to be a little bit healthier. You might be going to see the doctor more often, seeing specialists, and things like that that you didn't have time or budget for while you were a college student necessarily. So again, this line item, $150 a month or $1,800 a year. The next line item becomes sort of a catch-all, and I just call it Misc, miscellaneous. And for this, I have budgeted $250 a month. Again, maybe that seems high to you. The reason for that is it does seem like things always seem to crop up month to month. My wife and I have been tracking expenses for about 3 years now, very religiously, every single receipt. And it seems like every single month there's always something. The car needs an oil change, buying plane tickets to go see family at home, things like that. So even though miscellaneous also includes simple things, like if you need some pens and pencils for your job, there are also some big expenses that come every couple of months and that even out over the course of the year. I will also say that once you move out on your own from college, there are going to be a lot of household items that you may not have realized you needed, either because your roommates always covered them, or because they're things that you didn't really need, but now that you're on your own, especially if you're taking care of your own home, you might add things on. So again, $250 a month or $3,000 a year for miscellaneous expenses. The last category in expenses I want to talk about is student loans. And this is one where, again, your mileage may vary. Some of you may have more than this, some of you may have less than this. I threw in the number of $300 a month because that's pretty similar to the $250 on average that we talked about in the last couple of videos, as well as if there's some additional fees or you're trying to pay them off faster, there's a little wiggle room there. So that'd be $3,600 a year. And again, hopefully this illustrates the point of why student loans, if they can be avoided, should be avoided, because it will really take a toll on your budget for 5 or 10 or 15 years. What would you do with $3,600 a year if you had it, right? However, student loans are a necessary evil for a lot of people. Don't feel guilty if you take them out. Just trying to show you here in the budget what the repercussions are. So now we can look at our two budgets and add up all our expenses and see if you're living with a roommate, you can get away with $1,925 per month, just under $2,000 a month. If you strike out on your own, then you're going to be closer to $2,400 a month, which is $28,500 a year. All right, break time. One morning, the field of wheat woke up and it was all bundled together. It was shocked. Because, like a shock of wheat is when you have a bundle, it's called a shock of wheat. So, yeah. Remember, if you guys have liked these videos, you feel like the content is helpful and it's helping you have better expectations for college, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content. If you really continue to just detest these puns, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you can come back and let me know on every single video how much you hate them. Well, I want to talk about a few other things to add into the budget that will hopefully help you get a more complete picture of how much you hope to make or should make after college to really set yourself on a good path and start building some good habits. The first one is retirement savings. I'm not going to go into all the details of how or why to do this in this video, so I'm just going to give you the rule of thumb that you should save at least 15% of your income for retirement. That's a rule of thumb that a lot of people throw around. 15 to 20% savings is how you'll be able to retire and keep living the same way you were before. Looking at these two budgets, for the first one, retirement savings would be about $385 per month. On the other hand, for the living on your own or the more expensive budget, it'd be $475 per month. That's a pretty significant chunk of change. However, this is investing in the future for you, so while this money might not feel like you're keeping it and also multiplying it for the future as that money grows. The next two line items are personal things that I think that would be good for you to have in there, and if you want to put this money towards other things, that's okay. But I think that it's important to have short-term, 5-year, 8-year goals to be saving towards. So I have budgeted for $150 per month for a house and $100 per month for your next car. That means that after 5 years, you'd have almost $10,000 to put towards a house and $6,000 to put towards a new car. That would be a pretty good spot. Hopefully, if your car can last you 5 years, that would be great. Hopefully, if you're able to save more, depending on where you live, $10,000 won't go very far. These are just sort of placeholder values. If you're putting away $250 a month for short-term savings goals, that will put you in a really good spot for whatever it might be. So now if you put in expenses plus saving, on the one hand you're at $2,560 per month, or a little over $30,000 a year. On the other hand, you're at $3,100 a month, which puts you at $37,000 a year. So the last line item for real this time that I want to add on is taxes. We're going to really dive deeply into taxes next month so that you can know how they work, especially how the more you make, the more taxes you pay. So for this video, we're going to do the same thing as with the retirement savings. We're just going to say that your taxes are about 15% of your overall income. So if you look at that, on the one hand, for the cheaper budget, that'd be about $5,400 a year to give you a total. So if we look at the cheaper budget, that'll give you $5,400 a year in taxes for a total expected or required income of just over $36,000 per year. That's totally doable. Most post-graduation jobs will hopefully be paying you that much. $36,000 a year is roughly $18 an hour. If you take your salary in thousands and divide by 2, that's kind of like an hourly rate equivalent. And so hopefully if you're going to college, you're going to be making at least $18 an hour. If you want to go and strike out on your own, your taxes are going to be higher because you made more. Makes sense. Your taxes are going to be more like $7,600, putting your total expected or required income at $45,000 a year. So you see here the difference between going out on your own versus living with roommates is almost $10,000 a year by the time you put in the additional expenses, saving more to support a more expensive lifestyle in the future, and then the taxes on your higher pay. For those of you who feel like this budget wasn't totally accurate and you want to tweak it a little bit, because of the retirement savings and the taxes, what I would do is for every extra $100 you would like to add to the budget, that's equal to about $1,700 per year. The $1,200 that you're spending, and then the retirement savings and the taxes on top of it. Similarly, if you thought something was too high and you want to lower it, if you say my gas and car is going to be really cheap, take $100 off of that, then you would reduce the annual amount by $1,700. So, I do want to reiterate that I'm not telling you to just look for the college majors that make the most money. Hopefully you can find a major that will support the lifestyle you want and also be something that you can really enjoy. You spend a lot of time at work, and while a job is just a job, hopefully you can also enjoy it. The last thing I want to say when it comes to budgeting and expenses and all this kind of stuff is that once you reach this minimum required threshold, everything after that is for you in a sense. Yes, you still are going to be paying taxes, and yes, you're still going to be putting money away for retirement or for cars or houses or things like that or short-term savings. But however, let's say that if you make $50,000 and you decide to live with a roommate, that means 36 to 50, you've got $14,000. You can take out the taxes, maybe it's more like $10,000 to spend on whatever you want. That's your extra money. If you're living on your own, you choose to spend your money that way, you only have $3,000 to $4,000 of play money. But that's also, more than it might sound like. That'd be about $160 per month. So if you're talking about becoming a computer scientist or going into business and working for a really well-known business company or things like that, and you plan to make or expect to make $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 per year, you can see how much wiggle room you still have there. If you make $100,000, then you've got $55,000 on top that is fun money. Now, you'll be responsible, you'll pay your taxes, you'll put some into retirement, and you can save up for some of these short-term goals like cars and houses faster, get a bigger house, a newer car, things like that. But you also just have a lot of wiggle room in general. Whether you want to spend that money towards retirement so you can retire earlier, or if you want to spend that money on traveling the world, eating out, and other experiences like that, that's totally okay because you've already hit that $36,000 to $45,000 required minimum threshold. So don't just chase the money, do what you love, but now you hopefully have the right expectations. Thanks for watching this episode of College 101 here on the College Guide. Tune in next time.